Hello, everyone, and welcome to the VAED, the Voice Actor Education Document. If you found us on YouTube, take a look in the description for a link to the VAED, and I think you'll like what you find. Joining me today is Tom Dheere. Tom, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you very much for having me.
So, Tom, something that, and we're going to elaborate on what it is that you offer to potential students, but something just to jump the gun that I really enjoyed when I was working with you and saw a webinar you were in was that you were transparent with information. You were willing to show like time spent, money made, and when that wasn't very good, when people would look at it and say, oh, then this isn't a great idea to do this. But you also showed how consistent application was useful. I really enjoyed that. That showed the reality of something.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, one thing I do like to say is that the genre coaches and the demo producers sell dreams. I, as the VO strategist, sell reality. Not that what they're doing is wrong. Everything they're doing is amazing. And yeah, you come to VoiceOver to make your dreams come true, to be in cartoons or video games or commercials or audiobooks or whatever. But people come to the VoiceOver industry and then the reality of it hits them, which is I need to be a business. I need to market myself. I need to file my taxes. I need to fail over and over again. They don't need to fail. They want to succeed. But like one of the keys about being successful in the voiceover industry is understanding how to embrace failure over a very long period of time.
Oh, yeah. Failure everywhere.
Yep.
Failure much more than success.
Yep.
So that's funny then, because when I think about you hit the nail on the head. I joined to be a part of video games and animation, but now most of my work is coming in through commercial and advertising, and I've grown to appreciate it. So it's, I have someone myself who came in as a, someone who wants to be the actor, the one who wants to be the character. So in your case, though, you have specialized in the business, the grounded reality stuff. That makes me want to ask my first question, if you're ready to get started with those.
Let's do this.
All right. Tom, what made you decide to take up coaching in the first place?
Karmic penance. Um, I really felt the need to pay it forward because this industry has been so good to me on so many levels, and the people in the industry, the voiceover community, has been so kind to me for so long that I built a thing back in the day. It was called the Good Karma Network, which was just a Yahoo group. That's how long ago this was, where we would just help each other, give each other tips and tricks and notes, and let each other know about castings and things like that. And as a result of that, I started to get noticed by groups, and VO Extra, specifically John Florian's online voiceover magazine, who actually wrote an article about me
Hey.
and my marketing acumen. And so I started to become known as like the marketing guy in voiceover circles. And then in 2011, when I went to my first voiceover conference and I did my first presentation about the business of voiceover and how to write a business plan, and it was my understanding that no one had ever done that before. It was all about performance. And within a week or two, my voiceover career blossomed immediately. And within 2 months, I started coaching, business and marketing coaching and consulting for one of the voiceover schools out there. And I've been doing it ever since. So it's my way of giving back to a community that's been so good to me.
I'm glad to hear it, man. Like I said, it's my glaring blind spot, and I think it is for a lot of people. So maybe for our benefit, could you elaborate a bit on what that kind of marketing training and business acumen and all that means for us?
In simplest terms, my job is to hold a mirror up to you, to who you are as a voice actor, to show you in glaring detail what the reality of the voiceover industry is, and to help you figure out what your relationship is to the voiceover industry and what your relationship could be to the voiceover industry. And I do that through a marketing and business lens. Because, like you, most people who are attracted to the voiceover industry don't what is necessary to be effective and relevant in the voiceover industry. Most people think you just have talent. Talent is grossly overrated. It is 10%, at most of what you need to be effective as a voice actor, especially in 2024, where you have to be, you know, your own office manager, your own HR manager, your own accountant, your own audio engineer, and a whole bunch of other things. So what I do is I help you navigate the voiceover industry, as you can see from the maze behind me and the logo, the
I
compass
like
that's part
that.
of my
Yeah, I
logo.
noticed. I like that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. My job is to help you understand the reality of the voiceover industry. And it's mostly just understanding what it means to be self-employed, because the thought process of being employed, being a 9 to 5 or working 40 hours a week, and then the thought process, as well as the logistics, the time management, the workflow, the money management, the tax filing, is completely different as one who is self-employed. So I help you understand who you are, what the business is, your relationship to it. We write a business plan after doing a extensive diagnostic where I, lift up the hood of your voiceover business model and see where all the gaps in your knowledge and skills are. And then we come up with action plans to help you, fill all those potholes, to continue the road analogy.
I like it.
Yeah.
Honestly, the maze analogy is a really good one because similarly, I've kind of described to my friends who ask, getting into voiceover is this strange, eldritch thing that you don't really know what you don't know until you need to know it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's very akin to a maze where you just feel lost in the entirety of it all.
Right. Right.
So good on that one. I have, I think you've answered a lot of this question already, but I'm going to put it forward just in case there's anything you want to add.
Sure.
How would you describe your teaching style?
Ah, well, I've noticed there's basically four teaching archetypes. There's the cheerleader, the drill sergeant, the professor, and the therapist. And most coaches are some combination of that, but primarily one of them.
Mm-hmm.
I consider myself a combination of professor and therapist. Professor because I throw a lot of data, not just like the data that I shared at the Mark Cashman, Larry Hudson webinar workshop where I talked about, how much money I've spent and made on Voice 123, but data as in, what are the ducks you need to get in a row? You should have a W-4 and a W-9 on file. You should have a service guarantee of some sort. You need to go through the thought process of, should I incorporate or not? Why should I incorporate or not? How should I incorporate or be a sole proprietor? So there's a lot of professorial stuff. And my how-to videos, which you can find at vostrategist.com, is a lot of the data, a lot of the content that, but what I do in my sessions, my mentorship sessions, my strategy sessions, and my diagnostic sessions with my students, is that's when the therapist part comes in. So like, for example, I'll have two students, and this actually happened. Two students were not invoicing their clients.
Oh,
And I had to figure out why. Now, the first voice actor student was not invoicing their clients because they didn't know how to use their invoicing software. So it was a knowledge thing. So I had to sit down with them and walk them through how to use that particular invoicing software and set it up and set up your payments and send the invoices and collect the bill payment and all that stuff. Great, fine. The other student was afraid to invoice their clients. So there was a psychological component. It turns out that that particular student was afraid of success because success equals change, and change is terrifying for most people. So we had to kind of work our way through that, work through that part of the maze. So it's just fascinating how different people can have the same exact problem, but for a completely different reason, and it requires a completely different solution. That's part of the value of me as the VO strategist, trying to help you to figure out what it is and how it is and why it is and how to get you to the other side of it.
okay. So it sounds like you can have a lot of students that have particular issues or problems that require identifying and then acting out a plan to defeat, in a word, that problem. At least for me, when I was starting out, I was always worried that my nebulous specific situation was going to make me a problematic or difficult to teach student.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to turn that question on you. How would you describe a student that you might consider challenging, difficult, or any of those other words?
It's pretty simple and it's always the same thing. The ones that don't listen.
I love that.
Now, I don't mean that as in you need to listen to me because I know what I'm talking about. You're just some newbie whippersnapper. That's not what I mean. Um, Good voice actors are good listeners. And I don't just mean listen to the coaches or listen to the casting director or listen to the director in the recording session, when obviously that's extremely important. But the reason why most voice actors fail or don't even give themselves the opportunity to succeed is because they don't know how to listen, as in they don't know how to get out of their own way. They have these preconceived notions about themselves. They have these preconceived notions about the voiceover industry, and they have these preconceived notions about their relationship to the voiceover industry, which severely skews or impedes their ability to grow and advance in their voiceover journey. Here's the other thing, and you alluded to this earlier, is that which attracts you to the voiceover industry is not necessarily what keeps you in the voiceover industry.
Very
Like
true.
you, the vast majority of voice actors right now are trying to get into the voiceover industry because they want to do cartoons and video games. Pretty much anyone who's ever watched a cartoon and pretty much anyone who's ever played a video game is trying to be a cartoon or video game voice actor right now. And the vast majority of them have no shot. Not because, oh, it's competitive or you got to know somebody. It's because they suck. Why do they suck? Because they're lousy storytellers. But their dentist told them they could do a good Peter Griffin imitation. So they're like, oh, yeah, I'm going to do this. Or, I played Halo, so I want to be Master Chief or
Mm,
whatever. And then they just kind of slam into the voiceover industry sideways, expecting to get lucky, to get their big break, when
big
none of
break.
that is ever going to happen, regardless of the talent level that you have. So the ability to just truly objectively step outside of yourself, or metacognate, to use an SAT word, and truly look at yourself objectively. What is my talent level? What is my skill level? What is my knowledge level? What is my marketing understanding? What is my financial understanding? Do I understand the logistics of my life in relation to the definition of success that I have as a voice actor? So if you don't know how to listen, you got no shot.
Good. I like that you're just on the point about it. You're not just beating around the bush here. You're saying, no, here's what it is. You don't listen. If you don't listen, you won't succeed.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, I'd be doing everybody a disservice if I, tiptoed around it. And I'm not, and you can talk to my students or watch my testimonials on YouTube. I'm not harsh. I'm not mean. I'm just honest, but I'm kind when I'm honest because most of the time it's not about them. It's about their behavior.
Mm-hmm.
You can love your brother, but you can hate the behavior of their substance abuse, the ability to separate those things. So when I say, your understanding of this is skewed, and here's why I think why, and here's what the reality is, and you, to use a Stephen Covey analogy, you need to make your map of the voiceover industry match the territory that is actually the voiceover industry. So, and yes, people cry in my sessions. It happens. But mostly it's just because, looking at yourself is hard. Facing the reality of life is hard. Facing the reality of the voiceover industry where you have all these, dreams is hard. And I don't make it easier. I just make it easier to understand. It doesn't make it any less difficult because it's challenging. I've been doing this for 25 years, and sorry to tell you, man, it doesn't get any easier. It just turns into different types of hard, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I think so. I found that in my own journey as things go. It's you get used to one thing, but now you've got to get used to a new thing.
Yeah. Whether it's technology or whether it's industry trends or how this particular casting site works or your top client replaced you with AI or any of a number of things. You have to be constantly remodulating, adapting,
We did
learning,
it.
growing, evolving. Yeah, I talk for a living,
I'm adding
because
that to my tongue twister list.
yeah, remodulating.
Oh, there.
So
One take. It was one take. All right. So another thought comes to mind here. It sounds like you've had a lot of students that, while not necessarily shut out, don't listen to you at all, that you may have to work with them on being critical. So, my question to you is what's your thought process when you do have to be critical with some of your students?
Well, it's just being clear and explaining the why and the how behind the criticism. Because look, either they know how to file their taxes or they don't. Either they have that blank W-4 and W-9 on file, or they don't. Either they're doing the 10 to 15 auditions a day, which I recommend, or they're not. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, did you audition 10 to 15 times yesterday? No. Okay, why? And then you find out, well, I didn't get enough auditions in my inbox. Okay, so what do we need to do about that? I did get enough auditions, but too many of them have the rates were too low. Okay, well, we could talk about that. Or I just didn't feel like it, man. It's like, okay, well, then we need to talk about that too. What's the motivational issue that you're having? You know what I mean? Or, oh, I got distracted by a shiny thing, or I was doom scrolling on Instagram or something else, you know? So a lot of it is just objective diagnosis. So, why didn't this happen? Or why did this happen? Or, why did you book that gig? Why didn't you book that gig? You know, why did that TikTok video you made go viral? Why have you made 90 of them and you haven't gotten more than 3 views on any of them? And so on
Mm.
and so forth.
I like it. It's identify and then address it.
Yeah.
Nice and straightforward.
Yeah.
All right. So, is there some sort of progress that a student should make before seeking you out? I always ask this because, in my own experience, a teacher I had started with, at some point in our sessions, they came to say, I think you should have had some foundation work before coming to see me.
Yes. Yes. And I believe that you've heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Mm-hmm.
So there's like a voiceover Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You need training. And I've been subdividing that lately. Ideally, you should have some form of theater, on camera, improv, opera, or stand up comedy training of some sort before you even consider voiceover, because all of those are storytelling training.
Mm-hmm.
Having that storytelling gene or being able to realize what storytelling potential you have, I think is critical before you should even consider voiceover training. So get that storytelling training first and then layer that with voiceover 101 training, which I think you were just referring to, Robert. Breath control, microphone technique, copy interpretation, all the basics. And then layer that with genre training, commercial, audiobook, cartoon, medical, whatever. Once you get those in place, then you produce your demo. While you're doing that, work on creating that website, work on creating that home recording studio. So if you have proper training, a demo, a website, and a home recording setup, that's usually when people start working with me, because my job is to teach them the now what. I got all my stuff lined up. I got that shiny demo in hand. What do I do next?
Right.
I will say that I do work with people who are not quite there yet. Maybe they haven't made their first demo yet, or they're getting coaching, or their website isn't ready yet, because I want to help you get all your ducks in a row. So the moment all those things are lined up, you can hit the ground running. But I've also worked with people that have had 20 years of experience in voiceover, because the industry keeps changing and they're not getting as much work as they used to, and they don't know why. So that's a long way of saying voice actors of any experience level at any point in their journey can work with me, and all of them have gotten something out of it based on what they need, based on where they are in their voiceover journey.
That makes a lot of sense. Maybe if someone is just starting out, they could hit you up about your free 15 minutes and hear that sort of checklist that they should consider before really diving deep with you.
Exactly.
All right. So, something I like to do during these interviews is what I think of as passing the baton. This is one where I ask you, have you recently been a student of someone else in the industry? And if so, what have you learned from them?
Well, it's funny because I just got a new political demo recorded yesterday.
Oh my God, the timing.
The timing is good, but I'm trying to think, like, what did I learn? Um, well, I mean, you learn a lot when you work with a great demo coach. Now, I will preface this by saying there was no coaching sessions before this.
Right, okay.
So, because I have political experience, I just needed a couple more spots to kind of round out the existing work that I've done. So we basically just worked on 2 scripts that they wrote, and I worked on those 2 scripts, and it took an hour, but a good chunk of that was technical difficulties with Source Connect.
Oh,
So
I know it.
it was maybe a 45-minute session, maybe. Um, I don't know if I learned anything new, but he reinforced that, there's more than one way to say something right, you know.
Ah.
And that leads me to one thing that I talk to all my students about is the danger of the perfect read. There's no such thing. It doesn't exist. It literally does not exist. Even the client doesn't know what their definition of a perfect read is, probably until they hear it.
Mm-hmm.
So this leads me to a huge bit of advice. Don't practice your copy. Don't rehearse your copy. It is death for voice actors.
Oh, ho,
Death.
ho.
Now, what do I mean
That's
by that?
counterintuitive.
It is counterintuitive. Don't practice, because all you're doing is behaving yourself. You're reinforcing bad habits, most likely, especially if you haven't gotten any voiceover training yet. And then all of a sudden you're marrying yourself to a certain interpretation of the copy. Because if I had a nickel for every time I was the second, third, or fourth voice actor hired for the same project because the first one, two, or three couldn't do it in a recording session, why couldn't they do it? Because the client said, take one, and they did it, and their perfect rehearsed practiced read. And they're like, okay, that was nice. Take 2, take 3, take 27.
And it's
And
all the same.
yeah, it was the same, which means they are useless as a voice actor because they couldn't listen to the client. So don't practice, don't rehearse, experiment, put the lab coat on. You want to, you're getting genre training and you've got a homework assignment of, doing this and doing that with your copy. Take notes. If the line is like, I will go to the store, I will go to the store. Take a note. I will go to the store. What did that do? How did that change my intent? How did that pull the direction, the focus of the people that are listening? I will go to the store. Okay, what does that mean? And don't commit to anything. Just understand how just using that stress exercise to stress one word at a time and just see what it does. And then there's no such thing as good choices or bad choices. There's just strong choices and weak choices. So finding out what stronger or weaker choices in the context of this genre, with this script, with this audience in mind, and so on and so forth. So leave yourself as open to direction as possible, because you never know where the client's going to take you. You never know where the energy that you're going to bring to a session takes you. So, so being directed, by this political demo producer just kind of reminded and reinforced that for me.
Right. It helped you say to yourself, it's not the perfect read. We're here to get varied takes, nuances, maybe even perspective. Maybe they helped you have a new perspective on how to deliver on it, something you wouldn't have thought of.
Exactly.
Or at least didn't think of at the time.
Right.
Tom, that was so much that it is essentially answering my final question, the one I always like to close out on. So I'm hoping you have a secret extra thing to add as this finale.
I'll try.
Here it comes then.
Okay.
What is the most important thing that a student can learn from you?
Project management.
Oh, it is a new thing. Please, could you tell us anything more about that?
I'll be happy to. Project management is the thing that most people run away from. And when they come to the voiceover industry, I think of it as like you're running down the hall in that horror movie and project management is chasing you with an axe from your grown up poopy cubicle 9-to-5 job. And you see a door at the end of the hall that says voiceover and you're running towards it. And then you open the door and slam the door and lock it and you press your back up against it. And you're like, And then you look up and there's project management in the room with you. Oh. Project management is everything that happens from the moment that the audition hits your inbox to the moment that the check clears. Everything in between is project management. This is the most important skill you need to develop as a voice actor, because your talent will get you the first gig with a client, but your project management skills will get you the next gig with a client. Me teaching you project management and the ins and outs and everything that means is what you need to do to develop your value delivery, because your talent and your marketing is your value promise, but being able to do what needs to be done when it's time to book the audition for the gig and book the gig is value delivery. And that's the thing that most voice actors don't even know that they need to know. No, you don't know what you don't know, like you said before.
Exactly.
But that's one of the most important skills I teach is the art and science of project management.
All right, Tom, that was a big one, and that really hit because I've always tried to be important on that to really line those up, but you just made it clear to everyone. It's critical, crucial. And Tom, thank you very much for giving us all this crucial information. Uh, are there any socials or other things you'd like to share before we close this out?
Oh, absolutely. So feel free to check me out at vostrategist.com, subscribe to my YouTube channel, connect with me on Instagram and LinkedIn. And like Robert said, book that free 15-minute consult so we can have a little chat and we can see how I can help you navigate the voiceover industry.
Thank you so much, Tom. And thank you, everybody else, for being here. I hope this has been helpful, and we will see you in the next one. Bye bye, everybody.